Wow, Benatara, good afternoon. So I'd like to thank you for asking me to close this second edition of the talent program. Number one, I'm not a rock star. No. But I was thinking about what profound words I could share with this group, and a couple of sayings came to mind. The first one: in parts of Africa, a productive dairy cow is a very valuable asset. That's good. And then my personal favorite: life would be easy without customers or employees. I suspect both of these sayings are profoundly true, but I don't have a dairy cow, let alone one in Africa. But I do have customers, and I do have employees. So which one is the most important? The dairy cow, the customer, or the employee? And I have to say that I believe it's actually the employee, and it's not a new aha moment just because you asked me to come and speak about talent. I've had this sort of feeling for quite some time, because I believe that behind every business is a strong and talented, hard-charging group of women and men. The human behind any business, for their thoughts and actions. The talent, not the customer, not the machines, not the financial backing, nor anything else that a company, business, enterprise, government, or group of individuals may have. It's the human asset, the talent, the people, your employees that are the most valuable asset that you have. It's their abilities, their knowledge, their experience. They're really at the heart, the epicenter behind every critical decision, every innovation, and everything that you do and you stand for, the good and the bad. So, I went to Google and I searched talent. And several of the responses came up that the human asset is the top asset for any company, because your human assets are what sets you apart from your competitors. Their skills, their abilities, their knowledge, their experience, they're all the intangible and invaluable assets for securing your organization's future. People provide the positive mood that impacts your processes, your profits, and your productivity. Then I was doing some research on human talent, and I came across an article about Heather McGowan. Now, I don't know Miss McGowan, but she's a future of work strategist and a professor at the Center for New Workforce at Swinburne University in Australia. And Ms. McGowan talks about the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic workers' mental health. Now, I think that we all have experienced some mental health issues with respect to our human talent, as well as maybe our own mental health around the pandemic. It's been a tough time. But something she said really sort of struck me, and I'm going to quote her. "Employees have become a company's most valuable asset. The era of human capital has now begun." Pre-pandemic, customers were considered a company's most important consideration for customers were considered in a company's most important consideration for long-term value creation. But that is now shifted to the employee. That follows a similar trend in company valuation that has been underway for years, from physical assets to human capital. Now let me quote that again. Pre-pandemic, customers were considered a company's most important consideration for long-term value creation. But it's now shifted to the employee. It is the human talent and customers, as Ms. McGowan suggests, and human talent now wins. And she goes on to say, and this is really cool, in 1975, 83% of an enterprise value for companies on the S&P 500 came from physical assets, things like property, plant, equipment. And the remaining 17% came from intangible assets like human capital. 1975. By 2018, that has switched, flipped 180 degrees, and 84% of value created by human capital is now what companies are valued at, and only 16% from tangible assets. We've treated humans as a cost of production, a cost to contain, she says, but humans increasingly make all the value. And that's pretty profound. So we switched from making things to now utilizing the assets of our workforce. But then she goes on and she concludes with a risk. She points out that research post-pandemic has said as much as 50% of our workers are contemplating making work changes to better align with their values, their purpose in life, to leading to a better engagement for profitability. So, you've heard it before in other parts of your program. It's really talent which is at the center of everything. Human talent, and not robotics, not machine learning, not AI. It's the brain power and the good old blood, sweat, and tears, as we like to say, that drives innovation, profitability, and now, more importantly, value creation. We must once again put humans at the center. No doubt we have to use technology to make us all more productive, but the center is you and me, your friends, your family, and your employees. Working as a team, because if one brain is good, 10 brains must be 10 times as good. Now, I kind of come from the tech sector, so you might think I'm a technologist. Well, I'm actually not, but don't tell anyone. I kind of know enough about technology to be dangerous. But I do believe technology will drive us to be better, to be more productive. And that's what every one of us wants to be. But behind technology is humanity. Maybe someday robots and machines, maybe they'll replace us. I'm waiting to see this one, that'll be cool. Maybe they'll replace us. I'm not so sure, at least not in my lifetime. But it's this industry 5.0. It's technology and innovation. It's 5G mobility, machine learning, AI. Is it hybrid or home working or office working? Is it robotics? It's technology, left, right, and center. It's at the heart of everything. Every chip, component, transistor, vehicle, spaceship, sea ship. But at the heart of everything is the human heart, and the head, and the hands, and the body that makes up us humanoids. And that, I suspect, is what real talent is all about. I wish I was artistically talented, musically talented, smartly talented. I'm not. I'm just humanly talented. Because humans, all of you, all of your employees, they drive the world, the innovation, the companies, the governments, the educational systems. So until we're all replaced by machines, which I hope never happens, it's the human talent which is the next winner in the future. And why these programs to identify talent and what makes success are so critical. Since the Vikings, or was it the Spanish, or was it someone else that found the New World? Since the Gaudis and the Dalis dazzled us with beauty, since Hillary scaled Everest, Armstrong set foot on the moon, It's all been about human talent, and that's at the forefront. And technology over the last several years has tried to grab the headlines, and I'm sure in the last few decades it has here and there, and that's okay, because we moved up the curve with Moore's Law and the semiconductor, but now the shift is back to the human talent driving the world. And the corporate mentality has to adapt to this new way of putting people and human talent at the center of everything again. And I think that's okay. In fact, I think it's great. So don't be afraid because the customer has moved, to second fiddle. Because you have your first team, and they've moved to first violin, or first trumpet, or first oboe, or the first harpist, maybe even to the conductor. Because while the customer's in the audience, you and your staffs are making the music. And music, as we know, takes practice. So don't be afraid to hit some sour notes every once in a while. Or as I like to tell my folks, it's okay to mess up. Just don't make the same mistake twice. There's millions and millions of mistakes out there. Grab a new one. Learn from the one you just experienced and move on. Try another one. Just don't do the same one. Because human talent, we have to continue to push, to struggle, to try and try again. And if we fail, do it. Fail quickly. Move on. Learn from it. Write it off. Move ahead. As individuals, and more importantly, as a team. But not as vertical teams, because I think maybe sometimes we need more generalists. We have a lot of specialists, but we need generalists, and they need to work together, because horizontal teams with brain power working in unison to create new and innovative solutions to the complex issues that we're facing now and will be into the future. Is it scary? Well, yeah, sometimes I'm sure it is. But to me, I actually think it's super exciting. Because when you take the opportunity to regain control, to move from the tangible and the physical asset back to the human, as Dr. McGowan suggests, the case with the post-pandemic world be centered around the human again. And so while the cow in Africa probably will be the most important asset to some of the people that have those cows, at the center of the tech industry, which I know, live, and work within, human talent's at the center. And maybe it's at the center of your work as well. And if it isn't, maybe you can open your mind to the idea, because human talent, as you've heard these last 2 days, is really the most important asset you have. Yes, the customers are still important. We all rely on them, but it's the human talent that makes the world go round. Gracias. Did I fill up my time? It's okay? Well, thank you. And I'm going to give you an aside. So last week we had an important announcement here in Barcelona about Intel becoming another company that has chosen Barcelona to expand their businesses. And I've heard from a friend of probably a friend, so it's fourth or fifth removed. But I've heard that companies like Intel are worried about talent here, that the potential scarcity of talent to drive their innovation centers is one of their major concerns. So this Congress and the things that you're talking about and trying to solve is at the center of big corporations like Intel's concerns. And if they didn't say it, they should be saying it. It's talent. It's talent which drives us all, and it's talent that we have to create. We have to pull and push, cajole, force, and reward all of the employees that will drive us into the future, all of the staffs, all of the new innovations. So I applaud, Brew, what you're doing, the talent awards, the talent discussions, and the drive for talent inspiration. So on behalf of the GSMA, our industry, and maybe the Intels of the world, thank you.